Let's go ahead and get it rolling with the headlines. And the top uncommitted and unsigned prospect of the 2023 cycle is nearly a week out from decision day, and Nyckoles Harbor is keeping us all on our toes. Despite the Instagram post tagging Boulder, Colorado, our Steve Wiltfong says he's not visiting Colorado. But Blair, how can we ever rule out Dion and the Buffs?
Yeah, Emily, we can be sure that other contenders are also on high alert, with primetime now seemingly in the mix for Nyckoles Harbor. Whether or not they land a high-profile player like Harbor, I don't think it matters. It's generating attention, and it's unquestionably captivating. It's exactly why a Power 5 school needed to take a chance on Dion.
All right, the man who clarified the confusion, Steve Wiltfong, joins us momentarily. Meanwhile, Jaden Rashada visiting Arizona State this weekend. The five-star quarterback was released by Florida, opening up his recruitment. His father, Harlan, played for the Sun Devils in the early 90s, but where are you leaning here?
Well, from everything we've gathered, and according to the scoop king that is our colleague Brandon Huffman, ASU has made a huge impression. I think the Sun Devils are in a great spot after what they did this past weekend. And I know other schools are still poking around, but ASU is in a great spot, and Jaden Rashada could be the key building block for new coach Kenny Dillingham.
All right, another unsigned five-star taking it down to signing day. The top tight end, Deuce Robinson, hosting Georgia personnel yesterday. USC also set to visit later this week. How have Georgia and USC emerged as the favorites?
The relationships have been really key for Deuce Robinson. Georgia obviously has the recent tight end history, and Coach Todd Hartley is the best recruiter at that position. But USC has proximity to sell, and he's got a great relationship with a lot of the commitments already in that class. My pick remains on the Bulldogs, but I could see that recruitment going either way.
All right, to another Robinson. Ellis Robinson, the number one corner in 2024, announced he will commit on February 1st. Georgia also leading in the crystal ball for him. So what are the chances the Dogs land both Robinsons on the same day?
I think the chances are really good, but we'll wait to see how things shake out. Obviously, next week, Deuce is the number one tight end in the nation, and we would put a nice bow on the 2023 recruiting cycle, and Ellis Robinson would add to a Georgia class that already ranks number one nationally in 2024.
All right, as you just heard, we only had five-star headlines today, which means the news is, of course, picking up. Signing day must be nearing, so who else do we talk to but our director of recruiting, Steve Wiltfong. Steve, I know this story's been kind of all over the place with Nyckoles Harbor. Is he just messing with us? I mean, what's going on with the cryptic Instagram and the later clarification that you got from his father?
I can't speak for the Instagram post, but I can say that his father told 24/7 Sports that he was nowhere near Colorado, and that his son was at Archbishop Carroll High School for the day. And I do know that Oregon sent another cavalry out to the nation's capital to visit with Nyckoles Harbor. It was Dan Lanning last week going out there and meeting the family for the first time. It was several Oregon football staffers and the Oregon track coach, Jerry Shoemaker. He made the trip out there, head track coach for the Ducks, out there recruiting Nyckoles Harbor as well, ahead of this weekend's official visit, where I expect the Harbor family to get a lot of good time with Phil Knight. Oregon rolling out the red carpet for one of their top remaining targets here as they try and put the finishing touches on another top 10 recruiting class. And look, this is a young man we've talked about at length, guys. He wants to run in the next Olympics. Oregon has a track record of many Olympians. He wants to play football at the highest level. Oregon has a track record of that, and so does Dan Lanning and several of his assistant coaches on his staff. And so Oregon, I think they have some runway to continue making a move here. They're certainly putting all their cards on the table. It's a big official visit coming up as they try and make a move on Maryland. You still got South Carolina very relevant in this recruitment. Same with the Michigan Wolverines. So this is an exciting one to watch down the stretch. But Oregon's the one that has at the board moving the pieces as we record this show right now.
Yeah, and as Colorado's making or trying to make a move with Nyckoles Harbor, one player that they did make a move on, Steve, is Cormani McClain. He announced his split from Miami last Thursday. The Buffs ranked 113th nationally last season in passing yards allowed. So how big of an impact, Steve, could Cormani make for Colorado in year one under Coach Prime?
That's probably what their recruiting class ranked last year and when Deion Sanders and this staff was hired too. But now they're at number 29. They have the number 4 transfer portal class. So it's number 20 overall when you combine both of them. And, they're trying to reshape this roster right away. They got 23 transfers. They got 18 high school kids signed right now. And Cormani McClain, look, it obviously starts with Deion Sanders and his pedigree, best corner of all time, very charismatic, terrific recruiter. What he did at Jackson State, taking a program that was struggling and turned it into a contender, a conference title winner, and one that had a great culture around it and a great atmosphere and environment. Over 50,000 fans attending Jackson State football games last year. It was because of what Deion Sanders and his staff did, infusing a lot of excitement into that program. They've now instantly done that in Boulder at Colorado. There's a lot of juice around the Buffaloes. They flipped Dylan Edwards, maybe the fastest player in the country, from Notre Dame. They land a prolific receiver from Louisiana and Omarion Miller. Four-star Adam Hopkins is a former Auburn commit. And then here's Cormani McClain, the jewel of the class, right? That was at one time committed to Miami for a second straight cycle. Deion Sanders lands the #1 corner in the country. And we're not surprised this time. Travis Hunter was a surprise because we didn't see it coming. Not that he chose to play for Jackson State, just that we didn't know it was coming till the day of. With Cormani McClain, we knew it was coming during the early signing period when he didn't sign. And I think also it was more than just Deion Sanders. Kevin Mathis being his position coach and his pedigree, just the atmosphere and environment and the excitement around Colorado's program and helping build it up. But certainly Deion Sanders having a lot to do with Cormani McClain playing his college football in the Pac-12.
Now that Cormani is committed, we often see these big-time recruits help recruit other players. I mean, not that Deion really needs any help in that department, but what can Cormani McClain's commitment do to help with landing more top talent?
Well, it just continues to show the caliber of prospects that are seriously looking at Colorado. But look, I don't think Deion Sanders needs a high school kid's help to land blue chippers. And if you look at the list of guys that are visiting this weekend for an upcoming junior day, it's some of the elite players in the country, from Ryan Wingo to Boo Carter, coming out there to see what Colorado has to offer. They're going to have a lot of offered recruits on campus. They just had offered quarterback Danny O'Neal from Indianapolis this past weekend, who they moved the needle with. This is a class that's full of excited, energetic recruiters. I mean, you see Tim Brewster and his track record. Nick Williams was one of the best off-field recruiters in America. Now he's Colorado's defensive line coach. Corey Phillips running the shop. It's just a loaded staff of good recruiters. And Deion Sanders, obviously, how charismatic he is and how he can make people feel comfortable. They're going to be in the mix for guys. And when you talk to some of these elite prospects, like I did at Miami Battle, and I know you're going to be talking to Andrew Ivins about it later, Colorado was a school mentioned about as much as any other program of, hey, we want to go visit. And so once they get guys on campus, we'll see if they can close in 2024. But I think Colorado's a program that we're going to see in the top 20 in 2024, and then, go from there as far as their recruiting ranking.
A friend of the show, Jeremy Bloom, must be really, really excited hearing all that good news about Colorado. Steve, let's stay in the 2023 class. You reported over the weekend that Jaden Rashada is involved now with TCU. He was on a visit to ASU. But what can you tell us about the Horned Frogs and their involvement with the five-star quarterback from California?
Yeah, well, he's going to take an official visit to TCU this weekend. The Horned Frogs obviously make the college football playoff. Or he's going to take a visit to TCU this weekend. The Horned Frogs obviously make the college football playoff this year. They have the nation's #9 scoring offense. They have one of their best recruiting classes in 24/7 sports history, sitting at number 19, Blair, but they don't have a quarterback in the fold. And talking to several sources this morning, they're really in the mix. He's got a long-standing relationship with Kendall Briles. This visit's going to be about going out there and sitting down and getting comfortable with Sonny Dykes and seeing how he meshes with Coach Dykes and the TCU program. And also, look, they're going to sell the city of Dallas and all the opportunities that you have in the Fort Worth area at TCU away from football, and they're going to try and make them comfortable. They're certainly pushing hard to add Jaden Rashada to a class that doesn't have a quarterback. I'm told the visit to Arizona State went well. His brother lives in the area, so he got a chance to hang out with him. Obviously toured the campus. They met with Kenny Dillingham and the staff and talked football a couple times. But he's known Coach Dillingham for so long that it's really just that wasn't a recruiting trip. It was more just come out, see Arizona State, see Kenny Dillingham again. And now it's how does TCU stack up with the familiarity of Kenny Dillingham? You also have Washington in the mix, but I know you guys saw today we crystal balled a 4-star quarterback, a top 100 player in 2024 to Washington today, quarterback Austin Mack. So a lot of moving parts there with the Huskies and Jaden Rashada, but they're in there, Cal's swinging. But TCU, they're in an interesting spot coming off a college football playoff, high-scoring offense, quarterback that's a Heisman finalist. Sonny Dykes instantly turning that program into a title contender, great recruiting class. So we'll see what this official visit does, or this visit. I'm losing track of if it's an official or unofficial. I just know he's going to be there, guys.
Especially with Rashada. I mean, it's been kind of all over the place there. Okay, so Blair spent the last week in Hawaii, and Steve spent the weekend in Miami. Trying my best not to be incredibly jealous.
I played golf, Blair. Did you play golf?
Okay, you guys want to have this
conversation? I was invited to a few courses, by the way, but I stuck strong and I stayed with the course of being there on assignment.
It's 28 degrees when I woke up this morning, so I hope you guys enjoyed your golf and your palm trees and all that. But you were both there for work, specifically talking about Steve here. You were there for the Battle Miami 7-on-7. Afterwards, you put in a crystal ball for the Canes to land the number 2 athlete in 24, which is Jojo Trader. And given all the other suitors he has, what's making you feel pretty confident about Miami here?
Well, conversation with him during the event, was a school that he said he's most comfortable with. So I put in a current pulse pick. I know Miami's swinging hard here, and he's got a really good relationship with the staff and likes the trajectory of the program. And obviously, it's an opportunity for him to shine close to home and help build up a program that's been very prominent in the past. But I have that crystal ball in for Miami, but you can't sleep on Ohio State here. Expecting the Buckeyes down there again this week. He's got a great relationship with Brian Hartline and that staff. He's been to Ohio State several times. He's very comfortable with the Buckeyes and their receiver pedigree, and their on-field pedigree speaks for itself. So while I have Miami predicted there, current pulse pick, certainly not sleeping on Ohio State. And then you have Florida, Florida State, and Tennessee rounding out his top 5 right now.
Julian Sayin was also there. He's the number 4 quarterback in the 2024 class, has been committed to Alabama since November. And Steve, that hasn't stopped other schools from pursuing him. What's the latest in his recruitment and his status with Alabama?
Well, he says he's locked in with Alabama, and who wouldn't want to play with Coach Saban? And he's just maintaining relationships, long-standing relationships that he's had with coaches that have been recruiting him throughout the process. But Ohio State was recently out to see him throw. They offered a scholarship, and he likes the pedigree of the Buckeyes program. And one thing Julian Sayin said is, hey, college football, you never know what changes are going to happen there. And so, he's continuing to keep relations with schools like Ohio State and Miami. The Hurricanes are a program that's also pushing hard, looking for an elite difference maker under center on the recruiting trail. And Julian Sayin would certainly fit that bill as maybe the most accurate thrower of the football in this 2024 class. But he says he's locked in with Alabama, wants to play for Nick Saban, but, it's recruiting, so we'll continue to monitor.
So much time between now and when he will put pen to paper, so we'll see with that. Meanwhile, a few 2025 prospects there, including the number 1 quarterback, Bryce Underwood. This is likely the first time a lot of people are hearing his name on the show. So, Steve, tell the people, what do we need to know about his recruitment early on?
Well, he's a 2-time state champ for Belleville High there in Michigan already, and a guy that is one of the most highly recruited players at the position. Obviously, he's going to take a visit to Penn State this weekend. It's going to be his first time on the Nittany Lions campus, but he's been building a relationship with Danny O'Brien over there. Certainly, James Franklin is someone that's got great inroads in the state of Michigan and city of Detroit. And so he's excited to get out there and learn more about Penn State. He took several visits to Michigan during the fall. He's been to Michigan State several times. Ohio State delivered a great visit in December, so that's a program that's in the thick of it. He sees a lot of himself in C.J. Stroud and obviously loves the development that they did with C.J. Stroud. And then you have a school that I think everyone should keep an eye on with him moving forward, LSU. He's going to visit LSU the first weekend of March. Quarterbacks coach Joe Sloan has really hit it off with that family. He's been up to Belleville to meet with the staff and show Bryce Underwood how serious and excited LSU is about him as a prospect. He's going to go down to Baton Rouge and check it out. And when you talk to people close to Bryce Underwood over the last 2 years, LSU is a school that's always been mentioned as one he's super intrigued by. And then the last school, Lincoln Riley, USC. I don't think I need to go into those details of why a quarterback would be interested in playing for Lincoln Riley and the Trojans.
Yeah, they know a thing or two about Heisman trophies down in Los Angeles. Finally, Steve, you also spoke with Dakorien Moore. He's the number 1 rated receiver in the 2024-25 class down in Miami. What stage of the process is he in early on in the recruitment?
Another 2-time state champ with elite ball skills. He was one of the best players down there regardless of position. I asked him what school he was high on early in his process. Alabama. loves Nick Saban. Nick Saban was just recently at his school. There's a lot of prospects at Duncanville, including electric pass rusher Colin Simmons. But Alabama's a program he wants to go visit in March. He's going to be at Oregon this weekend. So Nyckoles Harbor, not the only 24/7 Sports composite 5-star that's going to be in Eugene, as Dakorien Moore will be one of several touted prospects. Also checking out Dan Lanning and the Ducks.
All right, Steve, we got one more question for you here in the chat. Jason asking, out of all the quarterbacks you've seen, I think that just means all of them ever. How does Raiola stack up? Is he worth the hype?
Yeah, well, if you look at his sophomore season, he had one of the finest sophomore seasons you can see in the country. And then obviously having seen him throw live so many times, and Blair can attest to this too, but he's a guy that accurate from all arm angle, has extremely powerful arm, mobile, can extend plays. And then he's just a football junkie that comes from terrific athletic pedigree. And so he's a young man that checks a lot of boxes, and we're certainly excited about him as our number one ranked player in the country. And you got Georgia and Nebraska in terrific position for him. My forecast is on Georgia. I know Blair's got a story coming on his interest in Nebraska. I saw that in the back end of our database there a few minutes ago, Blair. And so the Huskers fans will be able to check that out on Huskers 247. And then you got Oregon and USC pushing as well. So Dylan Raiola is certainly one of the special prospects in this junior class.
That's right. We will keep an eye on where he lands. Steve, thank you so much for coming back from Miami. I know you probably wish you would have stayed there a little bit longer, but we do appreciate you giving us all the insight from the big weekend. Looking forward to next week for signing day. Thanks, Steve.